Hello, everybody. So Nancy Yu and I are the lead partners for the Art of Yoga project. And the Art of Yoga is a rehabilitative program of yoga and art for incarcerated teen girls in the Bay Area. It's an innovative program that's gender responsive, and it helps girls build self-awareness, self-respect, and self-control. I just returned from an inspiring week at the TED Global Conference in Rio, and I have to say, of all the amazing things that I learned about, the one that struck me as the closest thing to a silver bullet for helping our world and the young people in it is in developing that inexhaustible and continually renewable gift of peace from within. The Art of Yoga does just this in inspiring and dramatic ways under the leadership of Mary Lynn Fitton and Lisa Peterson. So I'm excited to turn the floor over to this amazing woman, Mary Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you, SV2. I love you. Great organization. I started out 20 years ago as a family nurse practitioner in women's health and adolescent medicine. And there were three things that I kept hearing from my patients over and over again. I don't know, I don't care, and I can't help it. Bright young women were suffering from eating disorders, anxiety, depression, addiction, and other self-harming behaviors, and something was falling short for them. They needed to make better choices, but they weren't doing it. Now, my first aha moment, I have two, was realizing that a teen girl won't just say no to high-risk behavior, or maybe take her meds, or certainly not engage fully in therapy, unless she first changes her foundational attitudes. She needs to fully care about herself and her body before she can make better choices. She actually needed three things, and Lucy said them. She needed self-awareness, the antidote to I don't know, self-respect, I care enough about myself to want to change, and self-control, so she can say, I have the tools that I need, so in the moment I can make the right choices. Now, for me personally, I had found those through mindfulness-based practices. Through a serious study and commitment to yoga, meditation, and reflective writing, I was able to really transform some negative, destructive patterns in my own life to a really healthy and positive relationship with myself. And I wanted that for not just my patients, but every young girl, and especially for those that were most at risk for the most impact. And the Art of Yoga project was created. So we started bringing the yoga and creative arts curriculum to a middle school in East Palo Alto and to group homes and residential treatment centers. And right here is Celine, one of the first girls we worked with, and that's one of three of our curriculums. In 2005, we were invited to join a new state-of-the-art gender-responsive rehabilitation program in San Mateo County Juvenile Detention. So, working in the prison system was a whole new challenge for me, and it was really there that my real education began, and my second aha moment. One day, I was working with a group of girls, and I noticed one was missing, and I asked where Vanessa was, and I was told, oh, Vanessa, well, she's in trouble right now for passing a note to her pimp. What? This girl, 12-year-old child that I remembered in the light pink sweats and the braids, had a pimp. As I researched girls in the juvenile justice system, I found that 90% nationally have been sexually abused. Although they were in the system for committing a crime, I realized that most of these girls were also victims. For girls like Vanessa, addiction, sexual and domestic violence, trafficking, and gangs are daily facts of life. These girls are caught in cycles of violence and victimization. If I wanted to help them make better choices, I needed to better understand the trauma and violence in their lives and how that impacted those decisions. Our early programs, which focused on body image and media literacy, weren't enough. When the girls told me affectionately, "You're a skinny white lady and you need more junk in the trunk," What they were telling me was my approach needed to be more relevant to their realities. Yeah? So our work needed to focus on violence prevention, safety in relationships, and healing. Healing. The latest in neuroscience and our partnership with the Child Trauma Academy tells us that chronic trauma and neglect at critical times during brain development leaves the girls with very dysregulated nervous systems. They're basically caught in that survival part of their brain, that fight or flight, and that causes that dysregulation. And that causes poor decision making and gets them into the system in the first place, those behaviors. They act out with violence and aggression, but more often for girls, they act in with self-destructive behaviors. Mindfulness-based practices like ours aim to address decision-making at its core, to help regulate emotions and behavior, and are now a proven and innovative solution to help girls heal from trauma. The Art of Yoga Project now serves over 700 at-risk, exploited, and incarcerated teen girls each year in 3 San Francisco Bay Area County juvenile justice systems in 16 sites. Judges, chiefs of probation, mental health leaders, and other subject matter experts value our evidence-based approach. And because it is both rehabilitative and therapeutic, we've been called the missing link in a girl's rehabilitation. And now instead of, I don't know, I don't care, and I can't help it, we hear girls like Vanessa and Celine say things like, yoga, meditation, and art help me understand myself. I know my thoughts and why I do the things that I do. I like myself, and I take a breath before reacting. And the Art of Yoga Project, along with advocates and donors like all of you at SV2, need to answer with the same accountability because we know and we care and we can really help. Thank you so much.
Good evening, SV2, family and friends of SV2, newcomers, stay. My name is Jennifer Heinemann-Souze. Ben Trombley and I are the lead partners working with Food Shift, admirably led by Dana Fraz. Food Shift's mission is to work with communities, businesses, and governments in developing long-term, sustainable solutions to reduce food waste and build more resilient communities. Food Shift provides resources, advocacy, and collaborative food recovery services, raising awareness and facilitating food waste reduction itself. Ben and I volunteered to work with Food Shift because we wanted to get in on the ground floor with Dana, founder of Food Shift. Dana and her team are working actively to reduce the destructive impact on the environment and on people caused by our unbridled waste of food as a culture. Ben and I continue to be impressed and moved by Dana's energetic devotion and her successes in educating consumers, coalition building among food rescue and redistribution charities, vendors, businesses, donors, and her practical solution-oriented innovations toward a less wasteful food system and a more just culture. It is an honor to welcome Dana and turn over the microphone.
Hi, everyone. Last week, Food Shift co-hosted a 2-day, 300-person conference in Berkeley called the Zero Food Waste Forum, bringing together individuals from government agencies, community organizations, business leaders, and industry experts from all over the country to discuss solutions to wasted food. The very next day, we hosted a massive food giveaway in downtown Oakland for the public. The event had speakers, activities, and we gave away 11,000 pounds of food that would have been wasted. Together, we mobilized to feed thousands of people while inspiring action towards solutions. We are truly building a national movement to keep food out of the waste stream.
My obsession with keeping food out of the trash started in college. I saw tray after tray of perfectly good food being dumped down the garbage disposal, and I knew with every bone in my body that this was wrong. My early efforts to solve this involved eating much of the food myself, which resulted in me gaining about 25 pounds, and I needed to come up with a different solution. So I started a food recovery group on campus. Food recovery groups like this exist all across the country, and yet the problems of hunger and food waste are more heightened than ever before. This is the paradox that I've been wrestling with for over a decade, and it's exactly why I launched Food Shift, to turn up the volume on this issue and to develop a sustainable, scalable solution that more effectively connects the dots between food waste and hunger. The time is now for this work. Millions of people across this country still struggle to access nutritious food and employment. Businesses are working towards increased sustainability, and municipalities are aiming to reach zero waste targets and trying to limit their climate impacts. Creating jobs that keep food out of the waste stream and feed people is a no-brainer win-win-win for the environment, for community health, and for the economy. In January, we will launch a program with Andronico's community markets to track their surplus food, monitor their waste disposal fees, and establish a food redistribution program in their stores. This program helps us begin to track and get hard data around the true costs and benefits, the true costs of food waste and the benefits of food recovery. This moves us one step closer to our vision of creating jobs in the recovery and redistribution of food. This is our vision. We want to see the creation of a professional food recovery service sector that provides good jobs and redirects edible food to people who need it. Currently, the economic and environmental costs of food waste are externalities to businesses. But those costs are real, and we're paying for it, the consumers and the citizens. As a nation, we spend $750 million each year to dispose of surplus food. What if we were to invest just a fraction of that towards the recovery and redistribution of food instead? Businesses are already paying for trash and recycling removal, which as a result leads us to have the infrastructure, the training, the tools, the resources, and the personnel to make their work efficient and organized. It's time to develop a system for the safe and professional recovery and redistribution of edible food. This food should be feeding our communities instead of rotting in landfills, contributing to climate change. This vision will provide jobs while at the same time reducing the consequences that this has socially, financially, and environmentally. Food Shift is shifting the paradigm around food recovery from one that's been based on volunteers and charities to one that is actually rooted and valued and compensated as an essential part of responsible waste management and resource conservation. After 3 years of sharing this vision, I'm happy to share that at last week's conference, this was one of the main issues that was raised as a solution that we can implement right now that will actually move the needle on this issue. We are making progress, and we are so eager to work with partners and allies, many of whom I'm sure are in this room. It is such an honor to be part of the SV2 community. It's been a wonderful experience so far, and thank you so much for your support.
Hello, what a great evening. I'm Julie Cates, an SV2 partner, and I've been working beyond the dollars with the Big Lift initiative. Now, you may not realize, some of you in this room, that in affluent San Mateo County, only 58% of our third graders are reading at grade level. Now, so the key mission of the Big Lift is to raise that to 80% by the year 2020. So how are we doing this? The Big Lift is a really ambitious, collective impact initiative that is aligning the efforts of organizations in the public sector and the private sector across the entire county to focus on 4 areas. So first of all, expanding access to quality preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds, to improving student attendance, giving those students then inspiring, engaging summer opportunities, and then 4th, by really deepening family and parental engagement with education. So at SV2, our team is just so inspired by the goals and the organization behind this initiative, because we have the potential to really make a systems level change in education that is going to be vital to really improving our workforce development for our region. So with that, I'm really pleased to be able to announce our 2 leaders here, Ann Campbell, Superintendent of San Mateo County, Superintendent of Schools for San Mateo County, as well as Erica Wood, who is our Chief Community Impact Officer for the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Please join me in giving them a big welcome.
Well, thank you, Julie, for that very kind introduction. As we were preparing our remarks here tonight, we were asked to come up with several ahas. And as I've been sitting in the audience and looking at your SV2 logo, I realized, my main aha from tonight is an equation, and it's SV2 equals T cubed. And T cubed stands for time, treasure, and talent. And what I have really learned from our involvement with SV2, and I know I will continue to learn, is that there's a tremendous synergy that comes from that trifecta. So thank you so very, very much for your support of the Big Lift. And on behalf of all the big lifters throughout San Mateo County, I know they join me in sending their thanks as well. Also, when Erica and I do this presentation, usually we have a 3rd individual with us, and that's Supervisor Carol Groom from the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, who had another commitment this evening, and she wishes that she could be here and sends her greetings to you as well. As Julie mentioned to you, fully 48% of the kids in San Mateo County are not reading proficiently when they leave 3rd grade. And I'd like to paint a picture of San Mateo County for you, because we're a county of real contrasts. On the one hand, we're a county of great prosperity. We are actually about the top 1% in terms of counties throughout the United States, which, if you think about the world, means we're one of the very most prosperous places in the entire globe. But on the other hand, 1/3 of our kids qualify for free and reduced lunch in our public school system. Another thing to think about as far as San Mateo County is concerned is that we have health insurance for all of our kids. We really, truly believe that our kids need to have the very best health care possible. And long before that was a topic of national debate in San Mateo County, we made sure that every single one of our kids had health coverage. And yet, when we look at our reading scores, we've got so many of our students who are not making the kind of progress that we need them to make as they move through their academic careers. And why that matters is, as kids get through school and they get to high school, if you look at young people who drop out of high school, fully 88% of that group of students who dropped out were not reading proficiently at the 3rd grade. And so the aha that I've learned from our work with the Big Lift is, why do we care about 3rd grade reading? What's so important about that? And if you think back to your time in school, or to your children's time in school, or grandkids' time in school, as they enter kindergarten and move through the grades to 3rd grade, they're really learning how to read, and they're getting facility at that as a skill. But once they leave 3rd grade and move on to 4th grade and middle school and high school, reading is the skill that they most need to open up the different content areas that they're studying. And if they're struggling with their reading skills and it doesn't come easily to them, they give up, and they don't access those rigorous types of academic courses that we need them to be taking to continue to cause our Silicon Valley economy to thrive in the way that we want it to thrive, and so that each one of those students is able to fully participate in a meaningful life as an adult as well. So that was our aha as we looked at the data, was we absolutely need to make sure that at least 80% of the kids in San Mateo County, when they leave third grade, are reading proficiently. And Erica's going to share with you what our plan is. Thank you.
So what Anne has laid out, I really look at as the third grade reading crisis in one of the most prosperous places on earth. And it's absolutely shameful and unacceptable. And thankfully, there is a group, a collective impact collaborative known as the Peninsula Partnership Leadership Council, or the PPLC for short, that just 2 years ago consisted of 20 to 30 organizations that now has grown to over 150, representing education, government, philanthropy, direct service providers, and business, who together are really spearheading a bold new vision for early learning in our community called the Big Lift. And as Julie mentioned, it is a comprehensive, evidence-based approach, which we think is going to set this apart and be a model for other communities in the United States that are trying to tackle this problem. Consists of the following components: a high-quality early learning experience that begins at preschool when kids are 3 and extends with them all the way into kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. There's an intentional focus on reducing chronic absence and summer learning loss, because we don't want the gains made during the year to be lost over the summer or because kids aren't getting to class. The other important component of this, of course, is that we want to engage parents and the broader community in our young children's learning. Is this ambitious? Absolutely. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. But we absolutely know the educational status quo is no longer an option. And if places like Oklahoma can develop a best-in-class early learning system, we should be able to do that here in Silicon Valley and in San Mateo County. And we think we're onto something. Earlier this year, the Board of Supervisors of San Mateo County made a significant investment to the Big Lift of $10 million over 2 years. Just last month, we learned that the Big Lift received a prestigious competitive investment from the Social Innovation Fund of $7.5 million over 3 years. For those of you that don't know, the Social Innovation Fund is a signature program of the White House, so we're thrilled. And we're also equally thrilled that we have this strategic partnership with SV2 at exactly the right time to help us create and build the scale and impact that we know is possible. I see the time's up, but I'm going to end with this. How many of you went to college? Can I see a show of hands? Just about everybody in the room. And how many of you remembered when that letter of acceptance arrived in the mail? Yeah, I remember it. And it was a thrilling moment for me. And for those of us that are involved in the Big Lift, we think every kid deserves to have that moment. So we believe it. Now it's about achieving it, and we're thrilled to be working with all of you in the room. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Van Dusen, and I am SV2's Director of Partner Engagement and External Relations, and it is really wonderful to be up here with our 3 newest grantees and to have this chance to continue the conversation, to start the conversation. You've left us completely inspired and certainly eager to learn more. So I have a few questions, and I should point out here that we don't have enough room on the stage for all the people that should be here for the Collective Impact Initiative. And, we only have 4 chairs, but if you picture a collective impact, it is not about one person. So anyway, this is not the most accurate depiction. And Marcia Cade and Judy Chang also are co-lead partners, wanted to mention them. So first, let's start with you, Mary Lynn. If you could talk about what is happening today that really is making your work that much more relevant.
Thank you. It's absolutely an exciting time. Really, three main things are coming together. First, in the juvenile justice system, girls are the fastest growing segment, and with that comes a need for what's called gender responsive programming, and you've heard that term a couple times tonight. That is different from gender stereotyping, meaning that you can't just paint it pink and have the girls take cooking classes. We really need to understand the realities of how to best serve girls in the system. They are younger when they come in, they commit less serious offenses, but they have greater mental health needs. 3 out of 4 have a diagnosed mental health disorder. So we really need to understand those issues more. And their trauma is different. For boys, it's really comes from more physical gang fighting, street fighting. This is a generalization. For girls, it's more relational trauma, maybe coming from people that they even say, I love you too. So our partners in these progressive juvenile systems, and really on a national level with the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, the new administrator, Robert Listenby, is all about gender responsive programming. And our new project is able to come in with our trauma-informed approach. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Second thing, really briefly, is just this new awareness about violence against women and girls. Mm-hmm. Hearing about addressing sexual assault on campus, looking at awareness of the underlying issues of objectification and hypersexualization of young girls. And then even more critically, this relatively new awareness about sexual trafficking happening right here. The Bay Area being a hotspot for CSEC, the commercial sexual exploitation of children. The Art of Yoga project really has a specialty in understanding this and serves on work groups. Finally, the third thing is this, what I have heard called the neuroscience revolution. So we used to think the brain was fixed in form and function, and now we know it changes as a result of experience. Neuroplasticity, you've heard that term now. That is very exciting. We know that there's more than pharmacology and psychotherapy to treat brain-based behavior challenges. There's mindfulness, and it's everywhere. We're hearing about the approaches and new studies and MRIs where we can actually visualize changes with meditation. So those are the three things. They all converge, and the Art of Yoga project is there. So it's exciting. And we're really happy to be here with you this time. Thank you.
Dana, how about you?
The most urgent and relevant issue that relates to our work is climate change. The UN calculated that if food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter. Yeah, kind of a big deal. And in California, we're seeing that climate disaster play out with the drought this summer that really wreaked havoc on our agricultural system, costing about $1.5 billion to the system itself, and at the loss of about 17,000 jobs. As a nation, we're spending $139 billion to tackle the climate disasters in the year of 2012. And 75% of that's being paid by taxpayer dollars. So we are paying for this. It's just a matter of elevating the real cost of these climate disasters. But one thing that's also happening that's really exciting is not just talking about the negatives of climate change, but also what we're doing right that we can amplify. And Paul Hawken is coming out with a book called Drawdown, specifically to elevate those solutions that are doing just that, that are reducing greenhouse gas emissions, that if we do invest in, we are going to make significant change. And one of the key issues in this book is food waste reduction. So that's pretty cool. The biggest thing is this is a low-hanging fruit. More and more people are starting to recognize that by tackling this one issue, we can have a ripple effect in so many areas of society. It's huge.
And in your case, it's actually literally low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
So Erica.
Yeah, we too are compelled by a fierce sense of urgency, and there are really 3 reasons for that. One of the first things that the Peninsula Partnership Leadership Council did was to create a Bill of Rights for children and youth that was widely adopted in San Mateo County and was later adopted statewide by the California legislature. And this was a foundational document that laid out a set of rights for all kids, no matter which neighborhood they came from, their household income, family background, their race, ethnicity. One of those rights was that they have access to and experience a 21st century education. And you heard from Ann, we're not meeting that goal, right? And clearly we're not meeting that when almost half the kids aren't reading proficiently by the time they finish 3rd grade. So that's, reason number one. Reason number two is look at what is happening in California today in our public school system. We are embarking on a transformational change in the way teachers teach and students learn, known as the implementation of the Common Core State Standards. These are far more rigorous standards than we have had to date. And we absolutely know that to prepare kids for those challenges, we've got to get them ready, and we've got to get them ready early on. And the last thing I'll say is when you think about the prosperity of this region that Ann and I have talked about and the kinds of jobs that have fueled our success, more and more as we look in the future, those jobs are going to require at least 4 years of higher education. So that's what propels us forward.
As if those aren't big enough challenges, I'm going to ask you what the biggest challenges that you're facing now. If you could speak to that, Dana.
Sure. Hunger is on the rise. Pretty tragic, despite all the incredible work being done all across the country to try to reduce hunger. 1 in 4 residents in San Francisco actually struggle to access enough food. 1 in 5 in Alameda County, which is higher than it was last year. So that's a real bummer. But what it shows is that the traditional ways of addressing these issues aren't working, which really opens up this pathway for us to come in and use technology and innovation and creative partnerships and this ecosystem's perspective to tackle the issues in a completely new way. So that's one. One of our more personal challenges is around shifting policy. So we have been really fortunate to find a partner like Andronicus Community Markets that wants to work with us because they know it's the right thing to do. They want to get good media exposure, reduce waste, feed their community, great. And that's only going to go so far. So how do we present both the kind of carrot and the stick, knowing that we need to provide incentives and also set certain policy initiatives to keep or to hold businesses accountable for the waste and the impact they have on the environment. We don't have much experience in that policy realm, so we're certainly looking for support in that area and also in the development of, as we shape this whole food recovery service sector, that the business model that can make that happen.
Interesting. Erica, how about you?
Yeah, so this whole collective impact thing, I would say professionally, it is the most rewarding and the most challenging work that I have ever been involved in. And I know Ann shares that sentiment and Carol shares that sentiment. I work at the Community Foundation. I have a way of doing things. Ann works in education, has a way of doing things. County government has a way of doing things. So how do we work together? And, we have 150 some odd organizations represented today in the Big Lift. How do we keep those 150 organizations inspired, mobilized around a shared vision, up to date on our efforts, and feeling like they're really part of the effort? So I would say that is the challenge that we face right now.
Well, and SV2 has a few ways to do
Yes,
this too.
yeah.
Mary Lynn.
Well, I would say, just to bring it organizationally, our work is very complex with the girls, and we're constantly learning how to best serve them. And our biggest challenge organizationally is keeping our staff up to date on all the learnings. We have 40 plus teachers, instructors, and therapists, and they work in 3 different counties, and they work part-time. And they're trained at different times. So we're looking to SV2 to help us bring our trainings online in kind of definable modules so we can share, for example, how to really identify girls that might be part of being trafficked, how to really find those signs and know how to sensitively deal with that issue. We are becoming experts on that, and we need all of our staff, including those who were trained 10 years ago that are still luckily still with us. Another example that we're working on now is I'm developing a webinar, and we need SV2's help with that whole process on a new clinical model, a really cutting-edge clinical model called the neurosequential model of therapeutics that's really changing the way we do things. And we have to get that information to staff. So we're really excited to work with some of the partners on that. And we love these multi-year grants because then we get to know you better and you can really understand all the complexities of our work and the issues. So I really appreciate the way you work.
Exciting. Well, I have one last question with one-word answers. And that is, what word pops into mind when you think about the SV2 community? And you can all think about this too as they are thinking about it. So what one word might that be? And I'll start with you.
Okay, one word. That's so hard for me. I would say catalyzers.
Raymond.
Matchmaker, talent to need, resource to impact.
And Dana.
Engaged.
Nice. And my word is transformational. So on that note, again, thank you for giving us this window into your world, and we look forward to many more over the coming years. They're all in their first year with us. So this is a good moment for you all to think about what you might put down on your tweet card, and we'll look forward to seeing those. And there's been a lot of tweeting happening. I'm feeling it here. And so we're excited, and I'm going to turn this back over to Jen. Thank you so much.